let's talk about linked record fields. Linked record fields are one of the most powerful field types in Airtable. And once you're able to understand them, your bases will be upgraded 10x, okay? So with linked record fields, they allow us to connect data from one table to data in another table. We have a table of projects here, for example, and we have a table of people. And I think we can imagine many different ways that people connect to projects. You might have a project manager on every project. You might have a project assignee on every project. You might have a requester on every project. And so instead of using things like drop downs, like you might have here, instead of project status, you might have three different people's names here. We want to create a list of people that can be referenced in another table, used other places in our base, and we'll still only have one central list of people to manage. So that people table or list of people already exists. We just want to connect it to our project in a reusable list. So what we'll do is create a new field type, and we will use the link to another record field type, and we will use the people table as our source. So in this case, we're going to use, we're going to title this field assignee, and this is what is going to connect our people table to our projects table. So once we create that, we'll see that when we click into this field, we'll be able to select any of the people from the other table of people in this dropdown. We can actually select more than one, which in our case may not make the most sense since our field is named assignee. So when we open up our field, we can configure this to only allow a single person to be linked as the assignee on every project, just by unchecking this box. If this was assignees or some other field type or field name, we might allow multiple records, but in our case, it doesn't really make sense. All right, so let's go ahead and save that. We'll also see that in this list of people, we see the name of the person, but what if we wanted to instead see their email? We can actually update this display name to use the email field instead of the primary field of that record in the people table. So when we save this, we'll see that we're actually seeing the emails of these people instead of those full names. And then we can also limit what records can be selected in that dropdown. So if we don't want every single person to be selectable, we only want project managers to be selectable, we can actually limit the record selection to a view where we only see project managers or only allow project managers to be selected. And then when we save that and use that field, we'll only see people with the role of project managers. And all we did to set that up is in the people table, we created a view for project managers, and we filtered this to have only records that have a role of project manager. We can also do something very similar. Instead of filtering a view, we can actually add the filter directly to the field itself. I think this is useful in only certain situations. Most of the time, I like to use a view because I can always go back to the view and see, you know, how it's being used, how it's being set up. And it's a little bit more explicit than using these filters here. But we could just add a very similar filter here. Instead of role being project manager, we can add where the role is something else like client. And then when we use this drop down, we'll see only people with the role of client. So different benefits for each of those different options. I think this one can be a little bit more dynamic, which is actually pretty cool. So if I wanted to say, let's make an example here. So if I only wanted to see assignees on a particular team that match the project, for example, let's create a team field here where we have a creative team and we have an engineering team. All right, so we're going to assign this to the creative team, this to the creative team, and this record to the engineering team. And then we're going to also create a similar field on our people table. So let's create a single select field where it's team. We might have a creative team here, might have an engineering team there, and we'll go ahead and assign some values there. So when we go back to our projects table, we can configure our assignee field to, instead of using the hard-coded client value as the filter for the role, we can actually use a dynamic condition where we're going to use the team field as our filter, and we can filter based on the team field in our projects table. So what you'll see is now when I go to select the person, this is only going to show me people who have the creative team matched. And here we can have people who have the engineering team matched to their record. So that is a super powerful feature. If you didn't catch that, make sure you go watch it again, because that can really reduce the amount of people you have to scroll through in a list if you're able to use that feature for your use case. All right. So those are the primary things I want to show about the linked record field. If you have any questions, drop a comment. I also have an Airtable community that is going to be linked below in the description, where you can get all of my tutorials, all my videos, resources, and community network related to Airtable. So make sure you join. And until then, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.